Okay. I like framing questions like this. The question was, how do you feel about the person you nominated to national security having secret meetings with a foreign leader? And he says, oh, well, how do you feel about the Hunter Biden laptop? Does Donald Trump, does that sound like an answer to that fucking question?
You have to send them all back.
Even kids who are here legally?
Well,
Yep.
What you're going to do if they want to stay with the father? Look, we have to have rules of
We have to have rules and regulations, like deporting legal citizens.
All of that. Let me ask you about some of your other promises on this topic. You promised to end birthright citizenship on day one. Is that still your plan?
Yeah, absolutely.
The 14th Amendment, though, says that, quote, all persons born in the United States are citizens. Can you get around the 14th Amendment with an
We're going to
executive
have to
action?
get a change. We'll maybe have to go back to the people, but we have to end it. We're the only country that has it.
Okay. We'll just have to get around the Constitution. I mean, I don't know. All right. Let's try not to get too mad. We're zen. My throat hurts. No yelling. We'll be okay.
President-elect Donald Trump, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for being here. You are the first president since Grover Cleveland to win non-consecutive terms. Republicans now have control of the House and the Senate.
Right.
What do you plan to accomplish in your first 100 days in office?
Well, we're going to do something with the border, and very strong, very powerful. That'll be our first signal, and the first signal to America that we're not playing games. We have people coming in by the millions, as you know, and a lot of people shouldn't be here. Most of them shouldn't be here, but we have jails being emptied into our country. We have mental institutions from all over the world being emptied into our country. So we'll be doing that. We're going to be extending within that period, or as soon as we can, the Trump tax cuts, because, you know, they're coming due and they're very substantial for people. And it would be very, I think it will anger a lot of people, frankly, if we don't get an extension of that. That's what led us to one of the greatest economies ever. And those two things are going to be very vital, very important. We're going to be focusing on crime in the cities. And we'll work with Democrat governors. Most of them are, as you know, if you look at the 25 worst places, they're just about all Democrat-controlled cities and states. And we're going to be working with Democrat governors and Democrat mayors. And I look forward to doing it. But we have to do something about crime, mostly in our cities. And we're going to have a lot of other things.
All right off the bat, I don't terribly mind him saying that he's going to be working with Democrat mayors. That's probably... It's better than I've ever seen him address bipartisanism. So... There you go. There's the first bipartisan sentence I've ever heard Donald Trump say.
Things we'll be working on nominations. We're going to still be working on some nominations. I think they're going very well. We have, for the most part, I think they're going extremely well. It looks like Peter's doing well now. I mean, people were a little bit concerned. He's a young guy with a tremendous track record, actually. He went to Princeton and went to Harvard. He was a good student at both, but he loves the military, and I think people are starting to see it. So we'll be working on his nomination along with a lot of others.
We are going to...
He's having a little bit of problems he didn't really mention. The alcoholism and the police report and, you know, all that crazy shit. The nominees are going really well when one of them had to step down because of a sex trafficking investigation. Yeah, really, really well.
I'm going to delve into your nominations, but since you bring him up, do you still have confidence in Pete Hegseth?
Yes, I do. I really do. He's a very smart guy. I've known him through Fox, but I've known him for a long time. And he's basically a military guy. I mean, every time I talk to him, all he wants to talk about is the military. He's a military guy. I used to kid him about it. I didn't think we'd be in this position where he may be, hopefully will be Secretary of Defense. But every time I was with him, he was fighting for soldiers, where he said some soldier was unjustly put in prison because they were really doing what they were taught to do in some cases. So, yeah, I think he's going to do fine.
The fact that there are these allegations against him, misconduct, sexual misconduct, heavy drinking, the fact that he said to some senators reportedly he'll stop drinking if he gets this job, does that worry you?
No, I think that everybody has something that they can stop. Some people can stop eating. I'm lucky I'm not a drinker, but I could stop eating. And we all want to stop doing something. And if he said that, I mean, that's a nice thing to say. That's a good thing to say.
Okay. So the answer we got is, does it concern you that the person that you pegged for a national security position in your cabinet has a drinking problem, and he said that he'd stop it if he wins? Does that concern you? And he said, well, you know, I could stop eating. We could always stop something. Does that answer the question? I try, like, is that a meaningful comment? Is that better than just not even saying anything?
But he's very respected. I can tell you, I know a lot of the people at Fox, they think he's fantastic. And the people that work with him, really, they love him. So I think you're going to have somebody that's really terrific. And again, all he talked about with me, I said, you know, you're not really a television guy, even though he did very well, as you know. you're really a military guy. He said, I'm all about the military. And I told him, so he's making a lot of money at Fox. They're doing very well. And I said, you know, if for some reason you don't get this thing, you're not going to be able to go back. And all that money you're making, you can kiss it goodbye. He said, this is all about America. You know, he didn't say, well, let me think about it. Let me discuss it. That's a very big, risky thing he's doing. When he goes and he says, I'm going to give up, you know, millions of dollars in order to possibly become the Secretary of Defense. A lot of people would say it's a great position. It's probably almost no greater position, but a lot of people would say, I have to think about it. He said, I don't have to think about it.
All right, we're going to delve into your cabinet picks a little bit later, but I want to delve into one of your signature promises on the campaign trail, which was to end inflation, to lower prices. You are now proposing tariffs against the United States' three biggest trading partners. Economists of all stripes say that ultimately consumers pay the price of tariffs.
I don't believe
Can you guarantee American families won't pay more?
I can't guarantee anything. I can't guarantee tomorrow. But I can say that if you look at just pre-COVID, we had the greatest economy in the history of our country. And I had a lot of tariffs on a lot of different countries, but in particular China, we took in hundreds of billions of dollars, and we had no inflation. In fact, when I handed it over, they didn't have inflation for a year and a half. They went almost 2 years just based on what I had created. And then they created inflation with energy and with spending too much. So I think I'm a big believer in tariffs. I think tariffs are the most beautiful word. I think they're beautiful. It's going to make us rich. We're subsidizing Canada to the tune of over $100 billion a year. We're subsidizing Mexico.
Okay. This is what when I go on these panels and I say that Donald Trump doesn't show a knowledge of what he's talking about past like a 7th grade level, this is what I'm talking about. This would be the perfect opportunity to explain why tariffs don't pass the price on to consumers like they're designed to do. And like he claims they don't do. Instead of that, he says that tariffs are a beautiful word and that in his term there was no inflation, which is just wrong. So
for almost $300 billion, we shouldn't be subsidizing. Why are we subsidizing these countries? If we're going to subsidize them, let it become a state. We're subsidizing Mexico, and we're subsidizing Canada, and we're subsidizing many countries all over the world. And all I want to do is I want to have a level, fast, but fair playing field.
Sir, your previous tariffs during your first administration cost Americans some $80 billion, and now you have major companies from Walmart, Black & Decker, AutoZone saying that any tariffs are going to force them to drive up prices for their consumers. How do you make sure that these CEOs, that these companies don't, in fact, pass on the cost of tariffs to their consumers?
They cost Americans nothing. They made a great economy for us. They also solve another problem. If we were going to have problems having to do with wars and having to do with other things, tariffs...
How? Okay. Tariff is an import tax, right? If you're importing a certain good, a tariff would mean that you have to pay extra to do that. And so companies will raise the prices to offset the amount that they have to pay in order to import it or export it. How does that not raise prices? Like, just because you say so? Does that go against literally the nature of what a tariff is?
I have stopped wars with tariffs by saying, you guys want to fight, it's great, but both of you are going to pay tariffs to the United States at 100%. And they have many purposes, tariffs, if properly used. I don't say you use them like a madman. I say properly used.
No. He's going to walk back. What happened to the 2,000% tariffs on John Deere? What happened to like 300% tariffs on China? What happened to replacing income tax with tariffs? I'm glad that he walked away from that, or seemingly, allegedly walked away from that. But he's not giving a straight answer. This is something that Republicans do a lot. Is they cover up what they actually want to do. It's a Mott and Bailey. They'll make a claim that is insane, and then they'll back up a way more defensible claim. Then you're like, hold on, we're not here talking about normal tariffs. The tariffs that you're proposing are replacing income tax. We're not talking about normal. Even the tariffs that you did the first time around. That's not what we're talking about. That's not what you promised.
But it didn't cost this country anything. It made this country money, and we never really got the chance to go all out because we had to fight COVID in the last part, and we did it very successfully. And when I handed it over to Biden, the stock market was higher than what it was just previous to COVID coming in. It was actually higher. Tariffs are properly used, are a very powerful tool, not only economically, but also for getting other things outside of economics.
Well, again, prices did go up on some goods in your first administration, washing machines, tires. Will you punish CEOs?
Let me just explain to you. No. You mentioned washing machines. So you look at Whirlpool in Ohio. I got a call from Jim Jordan, one of the greats, congressman from Ohio, and he said, they're going out of business because South Korea and China are dumping washing machines into our country. And I put a 50% tariff on the washing machines coming in from China and South Korea. And Whirlpool and the companies that made washing machines, which are based in Ohio, largely based in Ohio, went through the roof. We saved thousands of jobs, tens of thousands of jobs. They were all going out of business.
What else happened, though? did it raise prices on washing machines? Because it sure sounds like it did. Creating jobs doesn't mean that it didn't raise prices.
Because they were dumping washing machines. And when I put the tariffs on, they became successful businesses. No, it didn't. Not only didn't it cost people, it made our country stronger and more powerful, and it kept jobs.
But how do you make sure that
just
consumers
not
don't wind
true.
up paying more?
He's
Will
just
you
lying.
punish CEOs who try to pass the cost of tariffs on to their customers?
Well, the market's going to take care of it. I mean, actually, the market takes care of it. And if it doesn't, we adjust it somewhat.
How? Okay. A tariff is necessarily interfering with the market, right? Like, the market would necessarily just be like, whoever has the best product for the cheapest price, people are going to buy. That's how a free market would work. By adding tariffs and making the prices on foreign producers lower, you are necessarily interfering with the market. Now, you can make arguments, and there are certain arguments that I agree with, that some interference in the market is good. Like, let's say that someone's using child labor to make their washing machines, and we want to take a stand against that. Tariffs would make sense there. We can't pretend like it's not going to raise prices, but they would make sense. That's not what we're doing here. We're pretending like tariffs are somehow not going to raise prices, are going to create jobs, and are going to what did he just say? Wait, hold on.
But the market's going to take care of it.
Yeah, and that there's somehow free market. Like, tariffs are necessarily interfering with the market.
Actually, the market takes care of it. And if it doesn't, we adjust it somewhat. But in the case of Whirlpool, or let's say companies that made washing machines, they were all being put out of business by the dumping from, in particular, South Korea and China. And when I put the tariffs on, very substantial tariffs, although peanuts compared to what people do to us, what countries do to us, it became a very, very powerful, successful company. Now, let's say I didn't do the tariffs. It would have gone out of business. You would have lost tens of thousands of jobs. And you don't include that in your equation. No, they make a lot of money. I'll go a step further. Tariffs are going to make our country rich. Tariffs are going to help us pay off $35 trillion in debt. Tariffs are going to make our country safe, because China, as an example, doesn't want to play games with us if we're going to do tariffs on them. They don't want to play games. And we have a lot of games being played on us right now.
Well, I think, and that takes me to my next question.
Yeah.
Are you actually going to impose these tariffs, or are they a negotiating tactic?
Well, I'll give you an example. With Canada, and in particular Mexico, we have millions of people pouring into our country. You agree with that? I spoke with both. I spoke with Justin Trudeau. In fact, he flew to Mar-a-Lago within about 15 seconds after the call. And he was at Mar-a-Lago. We were having dinner talking about it. I said, you have to close up your borders, because they're coming in the northern border too a lot. Not like the southern border, but they're coming in the Canadian border a lot. And drugs are pouring in. Almost as importantly, drugs are pouring in, maybe more importantly, drugs are pouring in at levels never seen before, 10 times what we had. They're just pouring in. We can't have open borders. And I said to the president of Mexico and to Justin Trudeau, if it doesn't stop, I'm going to put tariffs on your country at about 25%. That's a very, very substantial tariff. And
see, this is where the use of tariffs aren't necessarily a bad thing. And this is the way that Biden used them, I'm pretty sure. You don't really use tariffs to make a fuck ton of money, because it doesn't make a fuck ton of money. It just doesn't. You could use tariffs as like a punishment. So, like, yeah, let's say that we have a problem with drugs coming into the U.S. We could tariff a country and tell them, like, hey, get this fucking figured out. That's theoretically fine. Not so fine when it's one of our allies, but, you know, there's a reason that every time he's asked about the economic benefits of a tariff, or the economic downfalls, like it costing the consumer more, he always pivots off to either national security, which is a legitimate use for tariffs, or he lies and just says that LOL, even though it intuitively causes raising prices on consumers, and that's necessarily what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to discourage people from buying foreign produced goods in order for them to buy domestically produced goods. He just says that it doesn't raise prices. That's just a lie. Or it's either he is knowingly lying, or he doesn't know what a tariff is. It's possible, but I don't know.
in both cases, but in the case where it was really visible, within 10 minutes after that phone call, we noticed that the people coming across the border, the southern border, having to do with Mexico, they were at a trickle, just a trickle. It was, in fact, I called the border. See, unlike my opponent, I do call the border a lot. And I said, how's the border looking today? They said, there's nobody here. They couldn't believe it. The military stopped these vast groups of people. You know, we call them caravans, but they had caravans of people, and they largely stopped them. Now, they're going to have to continue that, but if they don't continue, and the other thing I told them is no more drugs, and I told that to China, too. I had to deal with President Xi. Had the election
No more drugs.
been different, I'm going to be very nice because we don't have to get into an argument over 2020, but had the election been different, the result been different, we would have had China giving the maximum penalty, which is the penalty of death, to people that sent fentanyl into this country. But Biden didn't, unfortunately, finish that discussion up. I had an agreement with President Xi, who I got along with very well. We've had communication as recently as this week. And I had communication with him where they were going to give the death penalty to anybody sending drugs into the United States.
This week you had that conversation.
Not that conversation, but I had other conversations. Okay. But in the past, I've had that conversation.
Let me ask you about another aspect of the economy, sir, the minimum wage. The federal minimum wage has been $7.25 since 2009. There are 20 states that still have the federal minimum wage at $7.25, and I actually have a map. 19 of these states actually voted for you, sir. Mm-hmm. And you can see it right here. I don't know if you remember this, but during the debate in 2020, I asked you if you would raise the minimum wage. You said you would consider it. And so my question for you is, now that you are going back to the White House, for these 19 states that voted for you, are you going to raise the federal minimum wage?
It's a very low number. I will agree. It's a very low number. Let me give you the downside, though. Yeah. In California, they raised it up to a very high number. And your restaurants are going out of business all over the place. The population is shrinking. It's had a very negative impact. But there is a level at which you could do it, absolutely. Yeah.
What is that level?
I don't know. I mean, I really don't know. I can say this. You have a lot of businesses that are open and thriving because of the lower minimum wage. If you raise it too much, and you understand.
The fact that anybody got on Kamala Harris for not answering questions is insane. He was asked a very simple, concise question. Hey, for these states, you said you would consider raising the federal minimum wage. Are you still considering that? And what does it look like? He says, yeah, I think that's low. But there's also other states that have really high minimum wages, and it's putting companies out of business. Okay, cool. Are you going to change the federal minimum wage? Like, that doesn't answer the question. It seems like he's kind of favorable towards it, but that's not an answer. Him saying that California has a really high minimum wage and it's putting businesses out, that doesn't answer whether he would support raising the federal minimum wage. Now, I'm not looking for necessarily just a strong yes or no, but I could, even if he just said, yeah, I'm considering it, or I think that number is a little low, and then didn't go off on the weird diatribe about a bunch of really high, like no one's asking you to raise it to $25, or at least no one reasonable, just higher than $7.
This, if California went crazy, they went crazy, and the restaurants are closing all over. Many more people.
Like, why is he talking about this? This is about the federal minimum wage, not California's.
In 2020, will you consider it? Is this something you're going to look at?
I'd want to speak to the governors. And the other thing that's very complicated about minimum wages is places are so different. Mississippi and Alabama and great places are very different than New York or California. I mean, in terms of the cost of living and other things. So it would be nice to have just a minimum wage for the whole country, but it wouldn't work because you have.
That's why they can change their minimum wage. They're allowed to do state minimum wages. It's about setting a federal one higher than $7. You can do that. You can have different minimum wages for each state, but still have the federal minimum wage higher than $7. You're allowed to do that, Mr. Trump.
Places where it's very inexpensive to live, where a minimum wage, which is $8 or $9, might have very little effect because the cost of living in certain places is really low.
Before we move on to immigration, which I do want to talk about, the chairman of the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, said he will not leave his post even if you ask him to. Will you try to replace Jerome Powell?
No, I don't think so. I don't see it, but I think if I told him to, he would. But if I asked him to, he probably wouldn't. But if I told him to, he would.
You don't have plans to do that right now?
What does that mean?
Okay, let's talk about mass deportation, one of your big agenda items. You've talked about prioritizing people who have criminal histories.
Correct.
But is it your plan to deport everyone who is here illegally over the next 4 years?
Well, I think you have to do it. And it's a very tough thing to do. But you have to have, you have rules, regulations, laws. They came in illegally. The people that have been treated very unfairly are the people that have been online for 10 years to come into the country. And we're going to make it very easy for people to come in terms of they have to pass the test. They have to be able to tell you what the Statue of Liberty is. They have to tell you a little bit about our country. They have to love our country. They can't come out of prisons. We don't want people that are in.
Don't we already do that? Don't we already have like a citizenship test like that?
For murder. So we had 11,000 and 13,000 different estimates, 13,099 murderers released into our country over the last 3 years. They're walking down the streets. They're walking next to you and your family, and they're very dangerous.
The 13,000 figure, I think, goes back about 40 years.
No, it doesn't. No, it's within the 3-year period. It's during the Biden term. No, that was a fiction that they put that out. This was done by the Border Patrol. It's 13,099, and it's during the Biden period of time. And these are murderers, many of whom murdered more than one person.
He's wrong.
You don't want those people in this country.
But you're saying something, sir, that's significant. I just want to make sure I'm clear, which is that you're saying, yes, you're going to focus on the people with criminal histories, but everyone who's here illegally has to go.
I'm saying this. We have to get the criminals out of our country. We have to get people
that is what he's saying, by the way, because anybody who entered the country illegally is a criminal. That's what he's going to say. I'm glad that he at least did bite the bullet on that. He said, yeah, listen, it's going to be hard, but that is what I'm going to do. Fucking insane. Crazy. And it's really funny that the people who are talking about how he's going to lower federal spending somehow supports the largest mass deportation and allocating funds to the largest mass deportation in country history. They support that while also lowering federal spending. I guess it's just because they want to cut all environmental regulations and the fucking DEA or yeah. It's insane. It's insane, and there's no principles.
Were taken out of mental institutions and put them back into their mental institution, no matter what country it is. Do you know that Venezuela, their prisons are at the lowest point in terms of emptiness that they've ever been? They're taking their people out of those prisons by the thousands, and they're drunk. And just to get back, because I know exactly what you're getting at. Number one, we're doing criminals, and we're going to do them really rapidly. We're getting the worst gang probably with MS-13, and the Venezuelan gangs are the worst in the world. They're vicious, violent people. And you see what they've done in Colorado.
Which, by the way, deporting gang members, that's fine. Like, no one's ever going to disagree with deporting gang members. That's fine. The problem is, A, going forward to reallocate a fuck ton of funding in order to deport every illegal immigrant. Two is declaring a national emergency to do it, which is probably what would be needed. I'm pretty sure you have to call martial law in order to do this. And three, we go on to explore this later. Well, there's a lot of reasons. Three, he wants to end birthright citizenship. So it's not just the illegal immigrants. It's also making a bunch of legal immigrants illegal. And four, he's already talked about deporting legal immigrants in the Springfield thing. Because most of them are there legally, but he still wants to deport them. So, like, one, you're using emergency powers to do so, which feels like hella dictator-like. Two, you're doing it to deport non-violent illegal immigrants. Three, you're doing it to deport legal immigrants. To make legal immigrants illegal and then deport them.
And other places, they're literally taking over apartment complexes and doing it with impunity. They don't care. They just are. They're in the real estate business.
You know, the local police say that is not the case in Colorado.
Oh, it's totally the case. I mean,
you don't believe the local police.
I play it. I used to play it at my rallies every single night.
Like,
no, they're breaking into doors. They're taking over the building.
But sir, you
and by the way,
raised the point.
The police are afraid to do anything.
You raised the point that the logistics are complicated. You said yourself you would
but
need
everything's complicated.
Yeah, you need 24 times more ICE detention capacity just to deport 1 million people per year, not to mention more agents, more judges, more planes. Is it realistic to deport everyone who's
You have no
here
choice.
illegally?
First of all, they're costing us a fortune. But we're starting with the criminals, and we got to do it.
Also, no, the illegal immigrants are not costing us a fortune. They are taking less money than they give. So, I mean, like, they're actually doing the opposite of costing us a fortune. They're giving us money. So, what he's saying is because they give us money, but they're here illegally, we're going to spend ungodly amounts of money to deport them all, even though a large majority of them are nonviolent.
And then we're starting with others, and we're going to see how it goes.
Who are the others?
Others are other people outside of criminals. We have convicted murderers. We don't mean people that are even on trial. We have people that have murdered numerous people are on our streets and in our farms, and we have to get them out of our country.
What about dreamers,
Also,
sir?
no, they're
Dreamers
not.
who were brought to this
They're
country
in
illegally
jail.
as children. You said once back in 2017 they, quote, shouldn't be very worried about being deported. Should they be worried now?
Yes.
The dreamers are going to come
Yes.
later, and we have to do something.
They're going to
about
come
it.
later, but they're
Because
still
these are
going to get
people that are
deported.
here at a very young age, and many of these are middle-aged people now. They don't even speak the language of their country. And yes, we're going to do something about the
What does that
dreamers.
mean?
And
What are you going to do?
I will work with the Democrats on a plan, and we can come
Deport
up with a
them
plan. But the
is what
Democrats have
he's
made it
gonna
very, very
do.
difficult to do anything. Republicans are very open to the dreamers. The dreamers, we're talking many years ago.
No. Those two ideas are directly contradictory. You literally just said Republicans are open to the dreamers, but you also said that you're going to deport them after you get all the violent criminals out. Like, bro. Nuh-uh.
They were brought into this country many years ago. Some of them are no longer young people. And in many cases, they become successful. They have great jobs. In some cases, they have small businesses. Some cases, they might have large businesses. And we're going to have to do something with them. And
You want them to be able to stay. That's what you're saying.
I do. I want to be able to work something out. And it should have been able to be worked out over the last 3 or 4 years. And it never got worked out. You know, Biden could have done it because he controlled, Congress to a certain extent, right? He could have done something, but they didn't do it.
So did you.
I never understood why, because they always seem to want to do it. But then when it comes down to it, they don't. I think we can work with the Democrats and work something out.
Let me ask you about another group of people, the estimated 4 million families in
Hopefully.
America who have mixed immigration status. So I'm talking about parents who might be here illegally, but the kids are here legally. Your borders are
talking
Tom
about separation?
Homan. Yeah,
He wants to get rid of all of them.
I mean, there are two aspects to this. Your borders are Tom Homan said they can be deported together. Is that the plan?
That way you keep the Well, I don't want to be breaking up families, so the only way you don't break up the family is you keep them together, and
Yeah, you deport the kid, the legal kid. You deport.
you have to send them all back.
Even kids who are here legally?
Well,
Yep.
what you going to do if they want to stay with the father? Look, we have to have rules of
We have to have rules and regulations, like deporting legal citizens.
regulations. You can always find something.
We have
out
to have
like, you know,
rules.
this doesn't work. That
We
doesn't.
have to have rules and regulations, like deporting legal citizens who have done nothing wrong other than have migrant parents. Like, no, this is insane. I'm laughing. No, I shouldn't be laughing. This is wild. This is insane. This is insanity. And the fact that people pretend like this is some sort of law and order when we're talking about using martial law to deport legal citizens who have done nothing wrong other than have immigrant parents. This is insanity.
Doesn't work. I'll tell you what's going to be horrible. When we take a wonderful young woman who's with a criminal, and they show the woman, and she could stay by the law, but they show the woman being taken out, or they want her out, and your cameras are focused on her as she's crying, as she's being taken out of our country, and then the public turns against us. But we have to do our job, and you have to have a series of standards and a series of laws.
We just have
And
to
in
deport
end,
the legal
look, our country is
citizens.
a
That's
mess.
what we have to do
the
our
highest
job.
crime rate, and during the debate, a man whose ratings have gone way down, David Muir, said to me, no, crime is, because I had to debate 3 people, not one. Debating 1 was easy. Debating 3 was actually pretty easy, too, if you want to know the truth. But David Muir said, the crime rates have gone down. I said, no, they've gone up. And then the following day, they released the crime rates, and they were way up.
Yeah, the
way
FBI
up.
statistics. Right? You're talking about those FBI statistics.
Well, no, but
which are
he gave the wrong answer. The
confusing
crime rates
based on
have
what you're
gone-
looking
yeah,
at.
But a lot of that is migrant crime.
Let me ask you about another aspect
Kristen,
of this.
you know a lot of it's migrant crime.
Well, let me ask you about another aspect
Wrong.
of this that I think a lot of people are really curious about. I mean, 3% of the people who are here illegally have criminal histories. But in your first administration, you had the zero tolerance policy, where we did see family separation.
Yeah.
You ended it. The purpose of that, though, to some extent, you talked
By the
about
way,
this at
you
the
had
time, was
it. You
deterrent.
also had it with Obama. You do know that.
He didn't have a zero tolerance policy.
And you also know he built the jails for children.
He didn't have a zero tolerance policy.
But in
I wanna-
2014, he built the jails. You know that.
I wanna ask
Wait.
you-
Why are you deflecting off to Obama? You literally just said that you still support this. Why are you deflecting off to Obama, saying like, oh, well, you know, he built the cages for the thing that I want to continue? Just own it. Just say that you want to do that. Don't fucking deflect it off to Obama. You want to do it, bro. You want to do way worse.
About the zero tolerance policy. I mean, he didn't have a systemic, we're going to separate families. Families were separated when parents were a threat to the kids.
We
Let-
don't have to
let me ask
separate a
you about
family.
this.
Excuse me, Kristen.
Yeah.
We don't have to separate families. We'll send the whole family very humanely back to the country where they came. That way the family's not separated.
Including
So
legal
no
citizens.
more family separations. You're not
Well,
reviving
it
the
depends
zero
on the
tolerance
family. The
policy.
family may decide to say, I'd rather have dad go, and we'll stay here. And in which case they have that option.
But you're not going to revive your zero tolerance policy, which was put in place as a deterrent. Is there any universe where you would bring that back, sir?
We need deterrence. Look, ready? When somebody comes here illegally, they're going out. It's very simple. When they come here illegally, they're
Or
going out.
if
Now,
they're
if
born
they come here
to
illegally, but their family is here
illegal
legally, then the family has a choice. The person that came in illegally can go out, or they can all go out together.
So, but,
And that was made very clear by Tom Homan.
so you're not, at this point in time, planning to revive that zero tolerance policy where kids are
Well, if you call that,
separated?
yeah, I'm doing what I just told you I'm going to do. You know, I don't want to send the family out. I don't want to send anybody out. But I'll tell you, we have to, because otherwise we have no country. If we don't have borders, and if we don't have voting, good voting, fair voting, do you know they're still counting votes in San Diego, California? Listen, they're still counting the votes. This is almost 4 weeks. They're still counting the votes. If we don't have fair elections
Was it
and
rigged
honest
against
voting
them?
and machines that work quickly, you know, if you had paper ballots, every election will be over by 10 o'clock in the evening.
So, let me ask you.
You understand what I'm saying?
Let
That's
me, before
wrong.
we get
And
to,
you get a much more accurate count.
before we get to all
No. How? The machines count the votes quicker, obviously. Putting them through the machine is a lot easier than going through and fucking checking every... That's just wrong.
of that, let me ask you about some of your other promises on this topic. You
Okay.
promised to end birthright citizenship
Yeah.
on day one. Is that still your plan?
Yeah, absolutely.
The 14th Amendment, though, says that, quote, all persons born in the United States are citizens. Can you get around the 14th Amendment with an
Well, we're going to
executive
have to get a
action?
change. We'll maybe have to go back to the people, but we have to end it. We're the only country that has it.
Okay. We'll just have to get around the Constitution. I mean, I don't know. Why? Okay. Whenever in these debates I bring up that Donald Trump like floats terminating the Constitution or doesn't approve of what is written in our Constitution, this is what we're talking about. He says, "Hey, this policy that you're proposing goes directly against the 14th Amendment." He's like, "Well, maybe we have to get around that. I don't know." You have no respect for the Constitution. You have no respect for the rule of law. You don't. You saying that you need to get around the Constitution. It's a little crazy. Which, by the way, under normal circumstances, that's a normal answer. You're allowed to say, oh, well, maybe this amendment might not be great, or maybe it's a little outdated. one, don't pretend like the Constitution is like this beautiful, impenetrable document. And two, you're Donald Trump. This isn't the only part of the Constitution you disagree with. To be clear, it just reinforces when the only reason I'm reacting the way that I am right now is because he's already floated terminating the Constitution to rerun the election. So him talking about also terminating other parts, including amendments, is just a little ironic to me.
Through an executive action.
You know, we're the only country that has it. Do you know, if somebody sets a foot, just a foot, 1 foot, you don't need to on our land. Congratulations, you are now a citizen of the United States of America. Yes, we're going to end that because it's ridiculous.
Through executive action?
Well, if we can, through executive action. I was going to do it through executive.
To be clear, first of all, you can't override an amendment through executive action. Two, why are we talking? She asked you about birthright citizenship, and he's like, oh, we're the only country in which you can step foot on the land and become a citizen. One, that's not how even asylum works. Two, that's not what we were talking about. We were talking about birthright. So if you're born here, you're a citizen. Why would you bring up asylum claims to argue against that?
Executive action, but then we had to fix COVID first, to be honest with you. We have to end it. It's ridiculous. Do you know we're the only country in the world that has it? Do you know that? There's
Well,
not one other country.
what about the legal challenge, inevitable legal
that's the other
challenges
thing.
that'll
Do you know
come?
we have thousands of judges? Somebody walks onto our land, and we have to now say, welcome to the United States.
No.
They could be a criminal or not a criminal.
Why? Why are we talking about asylum? We should not be talking about asylum. The question is birthright citizenship. Contrary to the 14th Amendment, why are we talking about asylum claims?
We release them into our country. It's called catch and release. We release them into our country. Wait, just 1 second. And now they get them lawyers. And the lawyers are
What
good lawyers.
about
And everybody has a lawyer. And do you know how many
birthright
judges we have?
citizenship?
Thousands. Now, here's what other countries do. They come into the land and they say, I'm sorry, you have to go. And they take them out. Okay? With us, once they touch our land, we're into litigation that lasts for years, costs us hundreds of billions of dollars. We have judges, and I'm sure they're all honest, but I don't know that.
All of this? Ignore it. It's completely irrelevant to the question that she asked him. What about birthright citizenship?
For a fact, you can imagine what's going on with the judges. But just so you, because I have a lot of judges, I tell you what, I know more about judges than any human being in history.
I know more about judges than anybody in human history. Well, what does that mean? What do you, this is the president. This is the president. The majority of people in the U.S. voted for this guy.
We have judges. Every time somebody puts 2 feet or even 1 foot on a piece of our land, it's welcome to long-term litigation. Other countries, every other country, when somebody walks on and they see that they're here illegally, they walk them off, they take them back to where they came.
By the way, I'm pretty sure most other developed countries also take asylum claims. This isn't true. This just isn't true. But also, completely irrelevant. We should be talking about birthright citizenship. That's what you were asked about. Why won't he defend it? Is it because he knows that he needs to openly say that he wants to get rid of the 14th Amendment?
Came from. We have to get rid of this system. It's killing our country.
Let's talk about health care. I've been talking to Republican
just don't
lawmakers
hold
on
him to
Capitol
that at
Hill.
all. That's
They
fine.
say it's no longer feasible to repeal and replace Obamacare because it's so entrenched in the system. Do you see it that way? Is that now off the table, repealing and replacing
when John
Obamacare?
McCain let us down by voting, and Murkowski and Collins and whoever it was that voted against, but they
rid of it.
really let us down. They did us a great disservice because we would have had great health. Obamacare is lousy health care. It's very expensive health care for the people. It's also expensive for the country, but for the people, it's lousy health care. When John McCain gave his thumbs down after saying for 10 years that he wants to repeal and replace, okay? And then he came out, put his now famous thumbs down, and he became a hero to the left. Let me just tell you,
he
if
had
we
no
find
plan.
something better, I would love to do it. But unless we find, but one thing I have to say, I inherited.
This is disgusting. What he just said is that John McCain voted against getting rid of the ACA, and now he's saying if we find something better, maybe we'll replace it. Why the fuck didn't you have something better when you were trying to repeal it? When you were voting to get rid of it, why didn't you have a plan to replace it with?
Obamacare or anything else you want to go. It's got about 20 names, but I inherited it. And I had a decision to make with Health and Human Services. I had a big decision to make. Do I make it as good as we can make it, or do I let it rot? And a lot of political people said, let it rot and let it be a failure. I said, that's not the right thing to do. And I had very good people in the medical area that handled that. And I said,
After
what do you
trying
want
to
do?
get rid of it.
We really have an obligation to make it.
He tried. So after trying to get rid of it, then he actually tried to improve it. After trying to get rid of it and not replacing it with anything, then we try and repair it instead of letting it rot.
as good as we can, and we did. We made it as good as we can make it. Instead of making it bad, where everybody would be calling for its repeal, I made it so that it works. Now,
But you
it
did
works.
try to overturn it,
It's
sir.
well, it's
you did try
lousy.
to overturn it. You
No,
did
no.
have your Justice Department try to direct the Supreme Court to.
No, we got a little bit of a surprising opinion, to be honest with you. If it would have been overturned, we would have had much better health care right now. But right now, we have something that I made the best of. I could have made the worst of it, and it would have fallen by the wayside. I did the right thing from a human standpoint. But, you know, I'm sort of proud of my decision. At the same time, sometimes I regret it. I told the people, and I gave them the money to do it. I said, fix it, make it work, because people would have suffered. But it's too bad that they voted no. I wish John McCain, he fought for 10 years on repairing.
You weren't voting to fix it and make it better. You were voting to get rid of it. That's what John McCain. Okay, whatever.
Replacing Obamacare for 10 years, and then he voted against. Nobody understands
Sir,
it.
you said during the campaign you had concepts of a plan. Do you have an actual plan at this point for health care?
Yes, we have concepts of a plan that would be better.
Still just concepts? Do you have a fully developed plan?
Let me explain. We have the biggest healthcare companies looking at it. We have doctors. We're always looking because Obamacare stinks. It's lousy.
If it
There are
stinks,
better
why
answers.
has it
If we
taken
come up with a better answer, I would present
If it stinks, why has it taken 8 years for you to think of a plan that would be better before trying to get rid of it? Why has it taken you 8 years? You should have a fucking plan by now. If it sucks so bad, anything should be better than this.
that answer to Democrats and to everybody else, and I do something about it. But until we have that, or until they can approve it, but we're not going to go through the big deal. I am the one that saved Obamacare, I will say, and I did the right thing. I could have done the more political thing and killed it, and all I had to do is starve it to death.
You did try
No,
to
you
have your
couldn't.
Justice Department effectively
You
kill it,
didn't.
though,
No,
sir.
kill it from a legal standpoint, but from a physical standpoint, I made it work.
In your concepts of a plan, sir,
From a physical standpoint, you made it work. How the fuck do you make a law physically? What? What?
will people with pre-existing conditions still have coverage, and can you guarantee their prices will
Hell
not go
The
no.
up?
answer is yes, they'll have coverage. You have to have it.
And what about their
because
prices?
you know what?
What about their prices, sir?
I want the prices to go down. I want to have better health care for less money. And there are ways of doing it, I believe. And I have the smartest people in that world. You know, that's a separate world unto itself. I have the smartest people in that world looking at it and trying. And if they come up with something, I will present it.
They've
Now,
looked at it for
maybe
8
you won't be able to sell
years
it,
and he
but
has
if we
nothing
get
to
better healthcare
present.
for less money, I believe it's very salable.
Just very quickly, when will we see
years.
your fully developed plan? When are you
Well,
going to
I
show
don't know
the
that you'll
public
see
that?
it at all. I can only say that
Never.
we have some of the best healthcare people. I've always tinkered with it. I
Tinkered
think
with it for 8 years and he has
it's a
nothing
little hard
better
to
than the
explain.
ACA.
Obamacare, when I took it over, was a disaster, and I made it
Has insured
workable.
20 million people.
Yeah, because of me. Because of me. If you look at what I did, I was the
tried
one.
to-
I made it good.
you
Yeah,
tried to repeal
legally.
and replace it. You tried to
because
kill
if I
it,
repealed
sir.
it and replaced it, we would have had a better system because we wouldn't have had health care.
Replace
and
it
the
with
Democrats would have
what?
been
You
forced
still
to do
don't
something.
know.
If we wouldn't have had it,
Repeal and replace with what? You still have concepts of a plan. You're saying that you'll get back to us whenever you have a plan. How the fuck did you try to repeal and replace it when you don't even have a plan now?
the Democrats would have been forced to do something that they wouldn't do if we have it.
Let me ask you about another aspect of healthcare. You talked about this on the campaign trail, IVF. You promised free IVF for all who want it, either through the government or through
Slay.
mandates with
Slay,
insurance
Donnie.
companies. I've been hearing from Republican senators, some of them, who say they're not going to support that plan. How are you going to get that passed?
Well, we're going to see. We want them to pay, ideally the insurance companies to pay for it, the fertilization. I came out very early for a Republican especially, and I think they were looking for my guidance, my great wisdom, right? They were looking for it. And I got a call from Katie Britt, who's a terrific person, senator from Alabama, and she said, sir, we just had a really negative ruling from a judge in Alabama, conservative judge, that all of these clinics had to be closed. And she said, and she went into great detail, and she said people are devastated over it. And after literally speaking to her for 5 minutes, I issued an order, really an order in a sense, and it was a statement from the Republican Party that we are all for IVF and fertilization. Okay.
Rare
The
Donnie
Alabama
Dub.
legislature met the following day and passed it. It was a beautiful thing to see. And I consider myself to be the father of IVF in a certain way. And the Republicans were very strong on the issue.
But, sir, I want to understand where it falls in your
I
list of
hate this
priorities. I mean,
guy.
is this
I hate
something
him
we
so
can
much.
expect to see you try to move on in the
Well,
first
we're
100
going to
days?
be talking about it, and we're going to be seeing. We have a lot of other things. I have tax cuts. You know, we'll be submitting in either the first or second package to Congress the extension of the tax cuts. So that might very well be in there, or it'll come sometime after that.
Let's talk about abortion, sir. You have taken responsibility for overturning Roe v. Wade. You've said that abortion is now a state issue. There are steps that you could take, though, as president, to restrict abortion through executive action without Congress. More than half of abortions in this country are medication abortions. Will you restrict the availability of abortion pills when you're in office?
I'll probably stay with exactly what I've been saying for the last 2 years, and the answer is no.
You commit to that.
Well, I commit. I mean, do things change? I think they change. I hate to go on shows like Joe Biden. I'm not going to give my son a pardon. I will not, under any circumstances, give him a pardon. I watch this.
Why? Okay, why can't you have a strong answer? Just say no. Why say no? Well, maybe. But look at Joe Biden pardoning his son. How? Just answer a fucking question, please. Like, the no was good. Why did you walk it back immediately after?
And I always knew he was going to give him a pardon, and so I don't like putting myself in a position like that. So things do change, but I don't think it's going to change at all.
Okay. Let's talk about some of your picks to fill out your administration. You named Kash Patel to be the next FBI director. He has a list in his book of 60 people that he calls members of the so-called deep state. It includes Democrats like Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton. It includes former members of your cabinet, from Bill Barr to Christopher Wray. You campaigned on destroying the deep state. Do you want Kash Patel to launch investigations into people on that list?
No, I mean, he's going to do what he thinks is right.
Do you think that's right? Do you think that's right, sir?
If they think that somebody was dishonest or crooked or a corrupt politician, I think he probably has an obligation to do it. But
are you going to direct him to do it?
No, not at all. Not at all. We have two great people there. We have him and we have Pam. And Pam Bondi has been like a rocket ship. She's very popular and very good and very fair. And Kash Patel is very fair. I'll tell you, I thought Kash may be difficult because he's, a strong conservative voice. And I don't know of anybody that's not singing his praises. The other day I was watching, and Trey Gowdy, who's a moderate person.
Really?
Very
you
strong.
don't know anybody who's not singing Kash Patel's praises? Really? I mean, I still have to do my looking into him, but from what I've heard, pretty crazy. I haven't heard anything even remotely good about him. So, I mean, they're just, listen, I'm not going to make any strong claims because I haven't looked into him myself, but he sounds pretty crazy.
And very respected in the party. He's Kash's biggest fan. He said, this is the most misunderstood man in politics. He's great. I guess they worked together on the Russia hoax or something. And Trey Gowdy became a fan. Trey Gowdy. Everybody respects him. And, just like him, others also. I don't know of one negative vote. I don't think he's going to have any negative votes.
Is it your expectation, though, that Kash Patel will pursue investigations against your political enemies?
No, I don't think so.
Do you want to see that happen?
If they were crooked, if they did something wrong, if they have broken the law, probably they went after me. They went after me and I did nothing wrong.
Well, let me ask you this. You said President Biden, quote, that you're going to appoint a real special prosecutor to go after Joe Biden. You said that
Where
during
did I say that?
the campaign.
Where?
You said that on Truth Social, June 12th, 2023. I will appoint a real special prosecutor to go after the most corrupt president in the history of the United States, Joe Biden, and the entire
Well, that part
Biden
is
crime
true.
family. Are you going to do that? Are you going to go after Joe Biden?
I'm really looking to make our country successful. I'm not looking to go back into the past. I'm looking to make our country successful. Retribution will be through success. If we can make this country successful, that would be my greatest. That would be such a great achievement. Bring it back. We have a country now that's overridden with crime, that has millions of people that shouldn't be here, that should be in prisons in other countries, that should be in mental institutions. We have drug lords being dropped into our country and told never go back to their country. I'm looking to make our country great. I'm looking to bring prices down because, I won on two things: the border. And more than immigration, they like to say
he's not bringing
immigration.
prices down,
I break
by
it
the
down
way,
more to the border, but I went on the border and I went on groceries. It's a very simple word, groceries. Like almost, who
Groceries.
uses the word? I started using the word, the groceries. When you buy apples, when you buy bacon, when you buy eggs, they would double and triple the price over a short period of time. And I won an election based on that. We're going to bring those prices way down.
I want to pause here because what you're saying is significant. Because you wrote on Truth Social in 2023 that you're going to appoint a real
By the
special
way,
prosecutor to go after.
Donald Trump has not proposed anything that will bring those prices down, by the way. Like, I can't even think of something that he proposed that would theoretically bring those down, or that he even claims would bring prices down. He's just saying that he's going to bring prices down. Maybe the tariffs, but those are designed to do the exact opposite. So, I mean, I don't know.
Joe Biden. Now you're saying you're not going to do that.
I will say this. No, I'm not doing that unless I find something that I think is reasonable. But that's not going to be my decision. That's going to be Pam Bondi's decision.
What a weasel. I'm not going to appoint a special prosecutor unless it's based. Yeah, no shit. I didn't think you were going to appoint a special prosecutor for the fun of it.
And to a different extent, Kash Patel. Assuming they're both there, and I think they're both going to get approved. But while you ask me that, what they've done to me with weaponization is a disgrace.
We'll get to some of that.
No,
sir.
wait. You can't do one without the other. In the history of our country, nothing like this has ever happened. And I've won these cases. I've won everyone, and the rest are in the process of being won.
Wait. No. Hold on. He didn't win a single case. He was found guilty in New York. Georgia didn't go to trial. The documents case got dismissed. So, I mean, I guess you could theoretically say he won that case, but never went to trial. He was never exonerated. And the federal case never went to trial. You didn't win a single case that you were facing. Not a single one. You had appeal pending on one of your civil cases. But to be clear, he didn't win a single case.
Deranged Jack Smith is on his way back to The Hague, where he can execute people. This is where he should have stayed. I think he's dangerous even being there. But I'll tell you what they've done to me in terms of weaponization indictments, impeachments, and everything else. And in the end, it probably helped because I got the biggest vote, the most votes any Republican's ever gotten in history.
Pam Bondi talks about investigating the investigators. Do you want her to investigate Jack Smith?
I want her to do what she wants to do.
Do you want to see Jack Smith
Well, I think he's
investigated?
very corrupt, but I want her to do whatever she has
Are you
to
going to direct her
No,
to
I'm not.
prosecute
I'm not.
Jack
She's a
Smith?
very smart person. She was a great attorney.
And this is the wiggle room, because it's a theoretically good answer to say, no, I'm not going to direct Pam Bondi to do anything. I'm not going to direct Kash Patel to do anything. I'm just going to nominate a guy who has a list of 16 fucking people that he wants to prosecute in his book to the fucking guy to be the position where he would prosecute those people. Like, you can say you're not going to weaponize your DOJ, but you're literally nominating a person that has... And the fucking gall of conservatives to act like Fani Willis running on continuing an investigation already being done into Trump is somehow corrupt when Kash Patel has a list of 16 Democrats he wants to prosecute. And now he's being nominated to be the head of the FBI. Fucking spare me. Spare me.
Attorney General in Florida. She's very experienced. I want her to do what she wants to do. I'm not going to instruct her to do it now.
Sir, are you going to fire the current FBI director, Christopher Wray, who you appointed?
Well, I can't say I'm thrilled with him. He invaded my home. I'm suing the country over it. He invaded Mar-a-Lago. I'm very unhappy with the things he
And found a
done.
fuck ton. And I'm pretty sure this is the case. Didn't he find a bunch of fucking classified documents? Did he not do that?
Crime is at an all-time high. Migrants are pouring into the country that are from prisons and from mental institutions, as we've discussed. I can't say I'm thrilled. I don't want to be Joe Biden and give you an answer and then do the exact opposite.
We're gonna talk about
so
that,
I'm not going to do that.
I'm not going to give you an answer just in case I change my mind.
You take a look at what's happened. And then when I was shot in the ear, he said, "Oh, maybe it was
my
shrapnel. Where's the
God.
shrapnel coming from? Is it coming from heaven? I don't think so." So we need somebody to straighten. You know, I have a lot of respect for the FBI, but the FBI's respect has gone way down over the last number of years.
Don't you have to fire him in order to make room for Kash Patel if he is in fact confirmed?
Well, I mean, it would sort of seem pretty obvious that if Cash gets in, he's going to be taking somebody's place, right? And somebody is the man that you're talking about.
Okay, let's talk about Project 2025. This is the conservative policy blueprint. You disavowed it during the campaign. You called it a product of the radical right. You've said some of their ideas were abysmal.
I said some of it is. Some of
Okay.
it is very good. Some of
Okay.
it's very mainstream, actually. Frankly, the Democrats should have used some of it because they went, you know, with all the transgender that they were doing and with the men playing in women's sports.
my
If they wouldn't have done
God.
that, maybe they would have done better.
Well, so you take
Conservatives cannot cannot blink without thinking about a man's fucking vagina. Like, why can you not fucking even get a sentence out without talking about fucking trans woman dick? Like, truly, you are the only one bringing it up. Never have I ever, on this campaign trail, did I hear Kamala Harris bring up trans people. Not once, I don't think. The only people bringing up trans people right now is Republicans. I don't know why we've let the narrative be rewritten on this.
I mean, my question, you're now giving people involved in Project 2025 prominent roles in your administration. Are you changing your mind about Project 2025? Is this now the policy blueprint for the second Trump administration?
Some people, if you take a look at the group, it was hundreds of people were involved. And I was actually, I reprimanded the whole group. I said, you shouldn't have placed this document in front of the voters because I have nothing to do with it and I'm the one that's running. You had no right to do this where you put a 1,000-page document in front, and many of those things I disagree with. Now, many of those things I happen to agree with. Many of those things Democrats should have agreed to, and I think they would have done much better in the election because they got slaughtered.
Well, I guess people see the list: Russ Vought, Brendan
They
Carr,
didn't get
Peter Navarro,
slaughtered.
John
He didn't
Ratcliffe,
even
Pete
win
Hoekstra, Monica
50%,
Crowley,
by the way.
and they think these are all the people who are involved in or writing Project 2025. This must be a blueprint for work requirements, eliminating the Head Start program, criminalizing pornography. Is that what we can expect
Well, I don't
to
know how
see?
they voted. I don't know. I never spoke to them actually about it, and I purposely, and I told you, normally it would be just the opposite. I'd review every page. I purposely didn't even want to see it because when somebody like you asked me a question about Project 2025,
If he didn't see it, how does he disagree and agree with parts of it? If he hasn't read it, how does he know that he disagrees with it?
I can honestly say I've never seen it. I have nothing to do with it. I didn't read it, but I did hear some things in there that I would totally disagree with. And I said to the people that were really the people behind it, you know who those people are? I said, you really had no right doing this to me because they used it as a soundbite, the Democrats. And I don't know, it couldn't have been too effective because they got slaughtered, but they did use it as a soundbite.
But the people who see, oh, he's bringing in all of these people from Project 2025, he must know what it is.
Well,
you say what?
I don't know what it is. No, I don't know what it is.
You still don't know
but
what
I
it is?
heard
All these
certain
people
things
are
that I
coming in
didn't
for
like.
your-
And by the way, I heard certain things that are phenomenal. Okay?
Like what?
Like law and order. We want law and order.
Good answer.
Okay? Little
Good
thing like,
question.
Let's put
and
prisoners in
great
jail.
answer.
Let's not let people come out.
What did I hear in Project 2025 that I like? Law and order. Do conservatives realize that this isn't a policy? Law and order isn't a policy. Like whenever they talk about, oh, name one of Kamala Harris's policy, and then you ask them, oh, what Trump policies do you like? And he's like, close the border, law and order. Like, these aren't policies.
Out and raid every drugstore in Manhattan so that we have to put glass up and every store is going out of business.
Let me ask you about something you've referenced a couple of times in this interview. I asked you last time we sat down for an interview if you were going to pardon yourself. You said no. But now that President Biden has pardoned his son, Hunter,
why would he? He doesn't need to.
are you reconsidering? Might you pardon yourself?
I didn't do anything wrong. I was given the option. And the lawyers told me, a very specific lawyer, I don't have to go into who, but very high up in the administration said, sir, if you pardon yourself, you're going to look guilty. And you did nothing wrong. Oh, I had that option. I could have saved myself a lot of legal fees. But it turned out that I was right. Look at what's going on. Everything's being dropped. I still have a Fani Willis, a total hoax. That's a total hoax. It's all being dropped. It's all been discredited. It's been dropped. There are those people that say, and this is
a lie, by the way. That's just not true.
All of those fake indictments, they were going after a political opponent. There are those that say that I actually did better in the election because of it. Now, that would be a first. I think you would agree, because normally that's like you go back to the microphones, you say, I'm leaving right now. I will leave office. I'm going back to my family, and I will fight for my name. Well, I had to fight for my name in public because I didn't leave office. But no, I didn't want to pardon, and I didn't want to pardon myself. I had the option to pardon myself.
And you don't want one now? You're not going to pardon yourself now?
What do I need one for? First of all, I've won almost all of the cases.
What if President
No,
Biden
he didn't.
win
Why does he keep saying this? He hasn't won a single case.
Resuscitation.
What if President Biden offered you a pardon? Would you accept it?
I've never even thought about it. I don't think he'll do it. Look, if he did, he's the one that started this whole thing. He got the Justice Department to go after me. And the state cases are all being run by the Justice
Evidence?
Department, which is illegal. They had their people from the Justice Department work for Alvin Bragg in order to get something going. They worked for Letitia James in the state. He had his people go from the federal government and take lesser jobs in the state in order to get done.
And you know he denies
This
it.
fucking stupid fucking conspiracy theory. And that's why I'm nominating Kash Patel to investigate the... Please.
Anything to do with it.
No,
and
you can't deny it. You know why?
Yeah.
Because they were there. Wait a minute. Wait. You have a tendency to sort of like slough over things. You just made a statement. His person, the top, maybe the third or second or third person, left the federal government, the DOJ, and went to work for Letitia James. And then, after they got that one started, went to work for the DA.
Let me ask you about some of this new reporting. NBC News is reporting that President Biden
That's not evidence of anything, by the way.
is considering giving preemptive pardons to the likes of Liz Cheney, Adam Schiff, and Anthony Fauci. If President Biden doesn't issue those pardons, do you think they are going to wish that he had? Are they going to be
I can tell you this about Cheney, and she's a so-called Republican. I think she hurt the Democrats terribly. When I saw that Kamala put Cheney out on the campaign trail, I said, that's the end of Kamala. I really did. I thought it was a terrible move, especially if you're a Democrat. But Cheney did something that's inexcusable, along with Thompson and the people on the Unselect Committee of political thugs and creeps. So the Unselect Committee went through a year and a half of testimony. Wait. They deleted and destroyed all evidence that they found.
No, they didn't. It's all on the website, by the way. It's all on the website. There's a couple things missing that there's no evidence of deletion, by the way. There's a couple things missing. No evidence of deletion. Most of it is on the website. If you want to disagree with any of it, do it. But make a case. Don't say that they were deleting evidence and just lie about it.
You know why? Because Nancy Pelosi was guilty. Nancy Pelosi turned down 10,000.
They were okay. This dumb fuck is our president. He's saying that the J6 committee was deleting evidence because Nancy Pelosi was actually the one guilty. Of what? Of what? Of not saying that they need the troops that you were offering, and then you never making an official offer for those, like you never made a request for those troops. Nancy Pelosi couldn't have shot down your request for troops. You just never made one. You had conversations about it. You had concepts of the National Guard.
Troops. You wouldn't have had a J6 because other people were guilty. The people that said that I attacked 2 Secret Service agents in a car. I grabbed one around the neck. I was then rebuffed, and I grabbed the other one. These are 2 of the toughest men anywhere on the planet. They happen to be slightly younger than me, maybe, just a little bit. Let me just tell you. They testified. They said it was total. And all of this stuff came out.
To be fair to Don, that was total bullshit. He's right.
So badly. Now, listen, this was a committee, a big deal. They lied. And what did they do? They deleted and destroyed a whole year and a half worth of testimony. You know that I can't get. I think those people committed a major crime.
Sir?
And Cheney was behind it. And so was Benny Thompson and everybody on that committee.
No evidence.
For what they did,
Yeah.
honestly, they should go to jail.
So you think
No evidence, no probable cause, no nothing. No nothing. Nothing to saying that. Just my political opponents, actually just my political opponents, released a report I don't like, and they excluded irrelevant testimony from somebody who said that I had unrelated conversations about sending the National Guard, but then never actually did it. And they should go to jail for that. And this doesn't set off any dictator alarms, or this in addition to deporting citizens born in the U.S. This doesn't set off any dictator alarms to anybody.
Think Liz Cheney should go to jail?
For what they did.
Everyone on the committee, you
I think everybody, anybody that voted in
Are
favor.
you going to direct your FBI director and your attorney general to send them to
No,
jail?
not at all. I
Oh,
think
fuck.
that
She just cut him off in a really bad time. Was he about to say that everybody who voted to release the report should go to jail? Just sit with that. Let's just sit with that for 20 seconds. Just think about that. Anybody who voted for that report should go to jail. Let's just brew over that for a second. The president is saying this. The one who just said he wouldn't support political retribution is saying that anybody that was a part of the J6 committee, even voting to release it, should go to jail. And then they accuse us of weaponizing the DOJ. They accuse us of targeting our political opponents.
they'll have to look at that, but I'm not going to. I'm going to focus on drill, baby, drill.
When you say that,
On
it carries
strengthening
weight,
the-
though. You've tapped these people to lead the Justice Department and FBI.
They can do whatever they want.
Okay.
Biden can give him a pardon if he wants to, and maybe he should. Just remember,
After this
unselect
interview,
committee,
he's so
a year and
like,
a half of sworn testimony.
I was undecided after this. After this, he absolutely 1,000% should. I don't know about Fauci, but for the J6 people, yes, absolutely 1,000% they should get pardons. After saying that anybody who voted for the report should be prosecuted, Biden needs to issue pardons for those people.
Testimony, and after getting all of the testimony, they deleted it. And they destroyed almost everything.
We don't even
nothing
know.
left.
By the way, we don't even know that that's destroyed. We that's made up. We don't know that it was destroyed. We just can't find it. That's it.
Unprecedented.
And they denied
If you
doing
do that in a civil case,
Yeah.
you go to jail.
You know they deny doing that, and officials say that the order never came in for
They
the
put
National
out
Guard.
a
But
statement.
on January 6th, let me ask you this about January 6th. I think
Benny
you're gonna wanna
Thompson
answer
wrote
this.
in a
Order never came
statement
in.
that he has destroyed
Yeah.
all evidence.
Let me ask you this about
It's
January
amazing.
6th.
I wish you could be if you know, you have such potential. If you could be just
Wait, who?
On January 6th, let me ask you this about January 6th. I think
Benny
you're gonna wanna
Thompson
answer
wrote in a
this.
statement that he has.
Benny Thompson said that he destroyed all evidence. Interesting claim. Give me one second. So, Benny Thompson, he said?
Order never
Benny
came in for the
Thompson? They put
National
out
Guard.
a
But
statement.
on January 6th, let me ask you this about January 6th. I think
Benny
you're gonna wanna
Thompson
answer
wrote
this.
in.
Benny Johnson. Wait, hold on. Benny Johnson. Wait, actually, this guy? The Russian guy? Any document or evidence that didn't support it?
In a,
Officials say that the order
did
never
say
came
Benny
in for the
Johnson,
National
right?
Guard. But
Statement.
on January 6th, let me ask you this about January 6th. I think
Benny
you're gonna wanna
Thompson
answer
wrote in a
this.
statement that he has destroyed
Yeah.
all evidence.
Let me ask
Benny Thompson? Oh, Benny Thompson. Okay. Okay. It's not as bad. Okay. Let's see. In which he reported that more than 1 million records had been prepared for publication and archiving in coordination with several government. The select committee did not archive temporary committee records that were not elevated by the committee's actions, such as use in hearings. So it just didn't archive shit that wasn't relevant to the report. So he's saying that the J6 committee deleted evidence, and his evidence is that the dude filed a report saying that they didn't archive shit that wasn't relevant to their report. Was that great? Probably not, but we have a fuck ton of deposition. Like, it's not like we have nothing backing up what they said. We have fuck tons of deposition. What are we even saying was destroyed? Nothing? It just wasn't archived.
Ask you this about January 6th.
I wish you could be if you you have such potential. If you could be just non-biased, you hurt yourself so badly. I'm telling you, they deleted and destroyed all the evidence. Everyone knows it. And you slough it off like it doesn't mean anything.
No, I'm just saying they deny it. That's all I'm saying.
Kristen, if I did it, you would be standing up in that chair shouting at me. And you know what I'd do? I'd say, you got me. They have done something so illegal.
Has Donald Trump ever said you got me? Has he ever admitted guilt to anything?
They have a committee sworn to, and because it was so bad, the only reason they did it is because the testimony turned out to be in favor of me. Like Secret Service testified and disputed everything. It made them into a bunch of liars. Not Secret Service.
Also, to be clear, Secret Service testified to him having conversations about the National Guard. That's the only evidence that we've found that is exculpatory to anything in the J6 committee. That's the only thing, is that he had conversations about possibly sending the National Guard, and they never got a formal request to do it. That's the exculpatory evidence he's talking about. Keep in mind, this has nothing to do with the electors. This has nothing to do with the pressuring of the DOJ. This has nothing to do with even the speech or him lying with Giuliani or him lying about election fraud results. Nothing to do with any of that. He's just saying this is what's so frustrating. Conservatives hyper-focus on the National Guard part of the J6 riot. How is it unbelievable that Democrats maybe thought that the president wasn't going to incite people to go to the fucking Capitol, and they didn't think that they would need increased National Guard? Because maybe they didn't think that there would be an insurrection. Just maybe. They thought that the extra National Guard would be unnecessary.
Made the people. They got rid of it because it made Nancy Pelosi, the mayor of D.C., so many people look like criminals. And I will tell you, it's illegal for them to delete and to destroy that evidence.
Let me ask you about January 6th in a different capacity, okay? I think you're going to want to answer this question. You promised to pardon those who attacked the Capitol on January 6th. Are you still vowing to follow through with that promise?
We're looking at it right now, most likely, yeah.
Well,
those people have suffered long, hard, and there may be some exceptions to it. I have to look. But, if somebody was
and
radical,
also, how
crazy,
does it not immediately undercut what he's saying about the National Guard when he says, yeah, I tried to send the National Guard to keep these people under control, and I'm going to pardon all of the people who invaded? Clearly, you don't care then. Clearly, it's not like you wish the National Guard was there. You're going to pardon everybody who was there.
There might be some people from Antifa there. I don't know, because those people seem to be in good shape. Whatever happened to Scaffold Man? You know who Scaffold Man was? He stood on a scaffold telling everybody to go and nothing happened to him. Whatever happened to Ray Epps? Now, I don't know anything about Ray Epps.
Oh my God. This dumb... He's actually... This is disgusting. This is disgusting. This is disgusting. Apologies.
Changed the way he was talking. Where is he? What happened to him? Because the people that did very little, they arrested an old woman because I don't think she did anything. They don't even know what she did. These people have suffered.
Chances are it was probably trespassing on Capitol grounds. Wild guess that someone that was trespassing on Capitol grounds probably was charged with trespassing on Capitol grounds. That's my guess. But also, are you actually claiming that they arrested her for no reason? Like, are you that she's still in captivity with no charges?
Lives have been destroyed. And yet in Portland, where they burn down half the city, they burn it down all the time. It's like a routine occurrence. They don't do anything. They attack the courthouse.
Hey guys, by the way, Portland doesn't exist anymore. It's burnt down.
Courthouse. They always say federal building. Okay. They destroyed the beautiful limestone exterior of the courthouse in Portland. They killed people in Portland. Seattle. People got killed in Seattle. Seattle, they took over a big chunk of the city.
Wait, hold on. Did people get killed on January 6th? I'm pretty sure people got killed on January 6th. Also, were those people in Portland, were they trying to obstruct official proceedings? I don't think so.
Took it over. They took the city away. Minneapolis. It looked like when they said this is a friendly protest, and yet over the poor slob from CNN, his shoulder, the entire city was burning down. It looked like World War II. Nothing happened. But wait, nothing happened. They took over the police station. They took over the police station in Minneapolis. They burned it down. Nothing happened to anybody. And yet these people have been in jail, and I hear that jail is a hellhole. They've done reports, and you would say that's true. They've done reports. This is the most disgusting, filthy place. These people are living in hell. And I think it's very unfair. Most likely, I'll do it very quickly.
Very quickly. Okay.
For leading an insurrection, by the way.
169 of them have pleaded guilty to assaulting police officers.
Because they had no choice.
900 pleaded guilty to other crimes.
What? Because they had no choice. Okay. Okay. That's one I have to make notes of. He says, J6 rioters had no choice but to assault Capitol Police at 5140.
Crimes. They're also going to be eligible for a pardon from you?
Listen, it's a very tough system. Do you know almost nobody? I saw people that didn't even go into the building and they were convicted. And you had the police saying, come on in, come on in. I mean, you know, the police.
He's not going to answer that question, by the way. He's not going to answer the question because it's obviously not law and order to pardon people who are charged with assaulting Capitol Police. But that's exactly what he's going to do. He's just not going to say it. He's going to skirt around that.
You know, you have a lot of cameras. They don't want to release the tapes. They don't want to release the tapes.
So, but you're going to consider pardoning even those who pleaded guilty to crimes, including assaulting police officers.
Well, sometimes they say, here's your choice.
You're not ruling it out.
Look, I know the system. The
He's not going to answer.
It's a very corrupt system. They say to a guy, you're going to go to jail for 2 years or for 30 years. And these guys are looking, their whole lives have been destroyed. For 2 years, they've been destroyed. But the system is a very nasty system.
Okay. Let's
I'm going to look at everything. We're going to look at individual cases, yeah.
Okay.
But I'm going to be acting very quickly.
Within your first 100 days, first day?
First day.
First day.
Yeah, I'm looking
for
first day.
Issue these pardons.
These people have been, how long is it, 3 or 4 years?
Okay.
You know, by the way,
all they wanted to do was a little insurrection.
And they're in a filthy, disgusting place that shouldn't even be allowed to be open.
Let's talk about your cabinet picks. I know we started off.
But instead of doing prison reform, we want to pardon all of these insurrectionists. That's what we want to do.
Talking about Pete Hegseth, but I just want to return to that very quickly. Have you gotten assurances from senators that he's going to be confirmed? Do you think he can make it?
No, I think he will, yeah. I've had a lot of senators call me up saying he's fantastic.
You don't drink yourself.
No.
You've talked about how devastating drinking can be.
No.
How concerned are you that the person who you picked for this top job at the Defense Department, at least according to those who've worked with him, has struggled with drinking?
But I've spoken to people that know him very well, and they say he does not have a drinking problem. And, you know, he had a lot of knives out for him. A lot of people...
Are they actually saying that Pete doesn't have a drinking problem? His own mom said he does. Well, I just don't know. Even though he said that he'd stop drinking if he become like, if you don't have a drinking problem, why would you commit to not drinking when you're nominated to an important office?
Don't want to see the military made better.
Let me ask you about former Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard. You picked her to be the director of national intelligence.
Right.
In 2017, she had 2 secret meetings with Syrian dictator Bashar al-Assad. Do you have questions or concerns about those meetings?
No, and he's got bigger problems right now.
Well, do you think it makes it hard for her?
His country is collapsing.
Yeah, I mean, do you think it compromises her ability to handle that?
I met with Putin. I met with President Xi of China. I met with Kim Jong-un twice. Does that mean that I can't be president?
Well, when you were president, they weren't
No,
secret
but look,
meetings.
people meet. All these people meet. I mean, I see some of the most dishonest people. I'll tell you, the 51 agents that said that the laptop wasn't from Hunter, it was from Russia.
My God.
What about them? Tell me about them. Do you think they did something wrong? Do you think?
Let's do, okay. I like framing questions like this. The question was, how do you feel about the person you nominated to national security having secret meetings with a foreign leader? And he says, oh, well, how do you feel about the Hunter Biden laptop? Does Donald Trump, does that sound like an answer to that fucking question? You're not going to address the secret meetings with a foreign adversary? You're just going to say, well, what about the Hunter Biden laptop? Why is it that no fucking conservative can answer a single goddamn question without bringing up Benghazi or Hunter Biden's laptop or transcock? That's the 3 answers that you'll always get.
Think they were all so stupid that they thought that the laptop from hell?
So you have confidence in Tulsi Gabbard?
I do. I mean, she's a very respected person.
Let me ask you about RFK Jr. He has obviously talked about his skepticism of vaccines. He's expressed opposition to childhood vaccines. Do you want to see childhood vaccines eliminated?
If they're dangerous for the children. Look.
So possibly?
When you look at some of the problems, when you look at what's going on with disease and sickness in our country, something's wrong.
Are you talking about autism?
Well, if you take a look at autism, you go back 25 years, autism was almost non-existent. It was, 1 out of 100,000.
Kill me. Oh, my God. Okay, so we're at the point where Donald Trump is actually doing the fucking weird vaccines cause autism shit. Actually. This sucks. This sucks so bad.
And now it's close to 1 out of 100.
Well,
I mean, what's happening if they can find it? Now, I did something the other night that was a little unusual. At Mar-a-Lago, I called the drug companies, the top drug companies, and
This
I
is
called
hell. I'm speeding it up.
RFK Jr. and Dr. Oz and some of his people. And I said, let's all get together and let's figure out where we're going. Because we're going to do a lot of things. Number one, we're going to reduce prices because the middleman makes more money than the drug companies, in all fairness to the drug companies. There's a middleman that nobody even knows who they are. And you look at our drug prices, they're much higher than the prices for the same medicine, for the same stuff.
That's
So
good.
We met. And we met for a long time, and we talked about pricing, and we talked about vaccines, in terms of what happens. We talked about pesticides. We talked about everything. And I think a lot of good things are going to come from him. And he's not going to upset any system. He's not going to upset this. He's not looking to to reinvent the wheel totally. But when you look at the numbers, we really don't have a very healthy country.
sir, going back 25 years, studies show that there is no link between vaccines and autism. And yet it sounds like you are open to the possibility of him looking
I'm
at
open to
getting rid
anything.
of
I
them.
think somebody has to find out. If you go back 25 years ago, you had very little autism. Now you have it. I mean,
Well, they say because you're better at identifying it.
1 in 100,000, and now it's 1 in 100. That's a pretty bad number.
Childhood vaccines
I mean,
have-
something is going on. I don't know if it's vaccines. Maybe it's chlorine in the water, right? People are looking at a lot of different things.
Childhood
I want
vaccines.
them to
The autism might be caused by chlorine, not by vaccines. It could be chlorine. Okay.
look at everything.
Everything. So childhood vaccines have prevented about 4 million deaths around the world every
I
year.
think it's
sir.
great.
Is that-
I'm all for it. I think it's great. Hey, look, I'm not against vaccines. The polio vaccine is the greatest thing. If somebody told me to get rid of the polio vaccine, they're going to have to work real hard to convince me. I think certain vaccines are incredible. But maybe some aren't. And if they aren't, we have to find out. But when you talk about autism, because it was brought up, and you look at the amount we have today versus 20 or 25 years ago, it's pretty scary.
We'll get scientists say that because they've gotten better
Yeah,
at
I think
identifying
we'll
it and there's
know,
no link in
but
studies.
the drug
sir.
companies are going to be working with RFK Jr. and he's been an interesting guy to me. I've watched him for 25 years, and he's been an interesting guy.
Let's talk about Elon Musk, another interesting person.
very interesting.
Last month, one of your allies said, quote, he's behaving as if he's a co-president. Will you favor Elon Musk over other leaders of competitor companies like Jeff Bezos, Mary Barra?
Jeff Bezos called me. We're having dinner. As you know, Mark Zuckerberg came in. We had a really nice dinner. He asked to have dinner. I had dinner with him. I'm having dinner with everybody. People like me now. It's something going on. I said, would you have come to dinner with me if I lost? I think the answer is no. I said nicely, kiddingly, of course, because I don't want to sound foolish. But I say jokingly, would you have been here at dinner if I lost? And the answer was probably not. Look, I'm getting called by everybody. It's very interesting. It's different than the first. When I won the first time, I wasn't nearly as popular as this. And one thing that's very important in terms of the election, I love that I won the popular vote, and by a lot. If I didn't,
1.6%.
because they would go with the other one. They say, well, he didn't win the popular vote. He won a lot. I won a lot of the electoral college, but they would always preface it by saying, now they say he won the popular vote and he won the electoral college and he won all 7 swing states. That was a great election.
Very quickly, because we're going to talk about the election coming up, but you've tapped Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy, to head up this Department of Government Efficiency,
Correct.
which proposes cuts to the federal government. I think a lot of people hear that and they get concerned about Medicare and Social Security and
We're
Medicaid
talking
and defense
about-
spending.
we're talking
You won't
about
touch Medicare,
theft,
Social Security?
abuse, fraud. No, I said we're not touching Social Security, other than we make it more efficient, but the people are going to get what they get.
Okay, so the entitlements off the table.
And we're not raising ages or any of that stuff.
Okay, off the
We won't
table.
do it.
Okay, let's turn to foreign policy.
Good
Should
answer.
Ukraine prepare for
Good
lessons from the
answer.
United States
I don't know
after
why you can't
Russia?
answer other questions like that.
Sure.
You've said you can end the war in
We're in for
24
$350 billion.
Okay.
And you're
I need to go pee, and then we'll finish this. But if you're watching this on YouTube, then it won't feel like anything. Bye. For a second. Bye.
is in for 100 billion. Why isn't Europe in for the same test? The one thing that should happen is that Europe should come in they should equalize. And Biden, all he had to do, like I did with NATO, I said, you got to pay your bills. They weren't paying their bills. And as you know, the Secretary General said, President Trump got $600 billion, now 640 to be exact. And I used to use the 400 billion number. He corrected me. He said, no, you actually got $641 billion put in because I said you have to pay your bills. We were paying for NATO. And you know why I got the money? Because I asked for it. It wasn't that complicated. Europe is in for a fraction. And war with Russia is more important for Europe than it is for us. It's important for everybody, but it's more important for Europe than it is for us.
And you've said
we
you
have a
can-
little thing called an ocean in between us.
You said you can end the war in 24 hours. You've even said you want to try to end it before you're sworn
Well,
into
I'm
office.
trying to.
You're actively trying to?
I am.
Have you talked to President Putin?
No, I have not.
You haven't talked to President
No,
Putin
I
since
have
you've
not.
been
I mean,
elected?
well, I don't want to say that, but I haven't spoken to him recently.
So you've spoken to President Putin since you've
I
been
don't want to say
elected?
that. I don't want to say anything about that because I don't want to do anything that could impede the negotiation.
But you
I want to
have
stop.
talked about
Let me tell you what I have
internal
talked about.
leaders.
There are people being killed in that war at levels that nobody's ever seen before. You have to go back to the Second World War, and even that, if you take a look, and you know what it is? It's the soldiers largely. The cities have been emptied out and demolished. The country has been demolished. If I won that election, which you know how I feel about it, I won't get into it because we don't need to start that argument. I think it's an easy argument. It was really proven even more conclusively by the win that I had on this one. But
you did
had
get
I,
sorry.
well, that's your opinion, but I disagree with it. Had I assumed, kept control, number one, Israel wouldn't have happened. Number two, Ukraine would have never happened. It would have never happened, Ukraine, Russia. But the number of people that are being killed, soldiers, young, beautiful soldiers, hundreds of thousands of people are being killed. And it's very interesting. It's level, totally level. The battlefield's totally level. You know what's happening? The only thing that stops a bullet, you know what it is a body, a human body. And the people that are being killed, hundreds of thousands on both sides. Russia's lost probably 500,000. Ukraine's lost higher than they say, probably 400,000. You're talking about hundreds of thousands of bodies laying all over fields. It's the stupidest thing I've ever seen, and it should have never been allowed to happen. Biden should have been able to stop it.
Sir, will the United States stay in NATO while you're in office?
doing what?
NATO. Do you commit that the United States will remain a member of NATO while you're in office?
Again, they have to pay their bills. If they pay their bills, absolutely.
But not if they don't pay their bills.
But NATO's taking advantage of us because we were look, two things. Number one, they take advantage of us on trade, meaning the European nations. Okay, like terrible. They don't take our cars. They don't take our food products. They don't take anything. It's a disgrace. And on top of that, we defend them. So it's a double whammy. So let me just tell you, I was able to get hundreds of billions of dollars put into NATO just by a tough attitude. I said to the countries, I'm not going to protect you unless you pay, and they started paying. And that amounted to more than $600 billion. That's a big thing. Otherwise, they wouldn't even be fighting. They wouldn't have any money to fight. If they're paying their bills, and if I think they're doing a if they're treating us fairly, the answer is absolutely. I'd stay with NATO.
But if not, you would consider the possibility of
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Let's turn to the Middle East now, sir. There are still American hostages being held in Gaza. You said this week that if the hostages aren't released before Inauguration Day, quote, there will be all hell to pay.
Correct.
What exactly did you mean? And do you still think that the hostages are alive?
I'm not a big believer in the fact that they're.
By the way, what a dog shit answer for Russia Ukraine. What are your plans to negotiate the ending of Russia Ukraine? What is even on the table? Are we talking about giving away Ukrainian land? Well, people are dying. Well, I don't even know what to like. It's bad when I don't like. I'm tapped in. I know generally politics. I know generally what people want to do. I have no idea what the fuck Donald Trump wants to do for Russia Ukraine because he won't say, which is, concerning for me. But I'm just like a fucking white guy in the U.S. Imagine being a Ukrainian. Imagine being a Ukrainian when all of your fucking aid to fight for the sovereignty of your country is held up by some fucking dumb fuck who doesn't know anything, being wishy-washy in the most important position in the U.S.
Too many of them living sadly, because I've seen the way they've been treated. I talk about the young girl that was pulled by her hair violently and thrown into the back of a car like she was a sack of potatoes. And I said, that's hatred. And then I said, how did that young girl do? Beautiful young girl just dragged by her hair. You remember, blood pouring all over her body. You can imagine the parents thrown into the back of a car by some horrible guy. And I said, how is she? She's dead. She died, sir. I don't think you have as many. I mean, I hate to say it. I think you have far fewer hostages than people think.
Really?
That's what I think. It's only my opinion, but I've been right on just about everything.
Are you going to pressure Prime Minister Netanyahu, with whom you have a very good relationship, to end the war in Gaza?
Yeah, sure.
And have you already started that process?
I want him to end, but you got to have a victory. People forget about October 7th. That was as violent. And you know what's happening? I noticed that a lot of people say, it never really happened. That's like the Holocaust. You have Holocaust deniers. Now you have October 7th deniers, and it just happened. No, October 7th happened. And I've seen the pictures. What happened is horrible.
If China invades Taiwan on your watch, are you committed to defending Taiwan?
I never say.
Still won't say.
I never say because I have to negotiate things, right?
Can you just say if you'll defend it? I'm not saying if the U.S. military.
I prefer that they don't do it. I have a very good relationship with President Xi. We have been communicating with each other.
Since you were elected?
Yes.
And you sent that message?
Since like 3 days ago. Yes, we communicate.
And you sent that message to him, don't
we
invade
didn't talk
Taiwan?
about that. We talked about other things. But I have a very good relationship, and I hope he doesn't do it.
This week, a federal court upheld a law that could result in TikTok being banned. You said you're going to rescue TikTok when you get into office. Are you going to take steps to protect it?
Yeah. And as you know, I use TikTok very successfully in my campaign. I have a man named TikTok Jack. He was very effective, obviously, because I won youth by 30%. All Republicans lose youth. I don't know why. Maybe it's changing. And last time we were down 30% with youth. This time we're up 35% with youth. And I use TikTok, so I can't really, I can't totally hate it. It was very effective. But I will say this: if you do that, something else is going to come along and take its place. And maybe that's not fair. What they're doing, and really what the judge actually said was that you can't have Chinese companies. In other words, they have the right to ban it if you can prove that the Chinese companies own it. That's what the judge.
So are you going to try to protect TikTok just very quick once you're in office?
I'm going to try and make it so that other companies don't become an even bigger monopoly.
Okay.
Because that's what happens.
We're winding down, and I know you have
That's
a
an
point to catch.
okay answer.
This is your first interview since you won the election.
Congratulations.
Yes, congratulations to you.
Hope you do well.
Yes, and sir, I don't have to tell you this because you've talked about it. It comes at a time when the country is deeply divided.
Answer.
And now you're going to be leading this country for the next 4 years. For the sake of unifying this country, will you concede the 2020 election and turn the page on that chapter?
No.
Nope.
No. Why would I do that? But let me just say, when you say the country is deeply divided,
Piece of
I'm not
shit.
the president. Joe Biden's the president.
But you're going to be the president.
No, I'm not the president. So when you say it's deeply divided, I agree. But Biden's the president. I'm not. And he has been a divider. And you know where he divided it more than anything else, and it probably backfired on him. I think definitely is weaponization. When he weaponized the Justice Department and he went after his political opponent, me, he went after his political opponent violently because he knew he couldn't beat him. And I think it really was a bad thing. And it really divided our country.
Sir, Democrats have control of the White House now. They didn't in 2020. If they are going around stealing elections,
When you say Democrats have control now?
of the White House.
Yeah.
So why didn't they steal this election? Since they have more power now.
Because I think it's too big to
Good
rig.
question.
So you won't.
Too big to rig.
To the people
There
who
were more
say
votes in
that
2020, by the way.
You're now directing your Justice Department to investigate 2020, and they want to move on.
Very
Is
careful.
that
The pan is going to be
abuse of
great.
precious resources?
By the way,
Is that what you want them to do?
just so you know, I have the right to do that, but I'm not interested in that.
Oh, you're not going to do that.
I'm not interested. I have the absolute right. I'm the chief law enforcement officer. You do know that. I'm the president. But I'm not interested in that. You know what I'm
Sadly.
interested in? Drilling and getting prices down and stopping people from pouring into our border that come from prisons and mental institutions.
Last two questions here. One of the things that made this campaign unprecedented and extraordinary were the horrific attempts against your life. 2 assassination attempts. Do you feel safe going into the White House
I
for
do.
the next 4 years? Why?
I have confidence in Secret Service. I know the people. I got to know a lot of them, and I have confidence. It was a bad moment. Something shouldn't have happened, but I have a lot of confidence, and they really stepped it up. They were restricted from giving the look. I do a rally, and you were at many of them, and I'd have 50,000 people. Joe would have a rally, and he'd have 30 people, and he had more Secret Service than me. My Secret Service was always asking for more manpower/women power. They were asking for more and more and more, and they couldn't get it. I'm not blaming them really because they were always fighting for more people, and they wouldn't. Now, boy, do we have it.
I know it was hard on your entire family. What can people expect from the First Lady in this second administration? What role will she play? She obviously had her be best campaign.
She's very liked, loved, and she's very respected, and she's a very solid person, and she devotes a lot of time to helping children. You know what she does, and she's got her Be Best deal that is incredible what she's done. the one thing I said, whether it's First Lady or my children did such a good job, and they were treated very badly by the press and others. Ivanka was unbelievable what she did, and she all she wanted to do was one thing: get people jobs. She could have been the UN secretary. I said to her, she would have been unbelievable. She's got the whole package for that, including right up there. She's as smart as like she didn't want. She said, "Daddy, I want to work on getting people jobs." You know, she'd go to Walmart, she'd go to X. She produced millions of jobs for people. Not glamorous. Most people didn't know she did it, and she was always being excoriated. And I said to my kids, "Don't come in. It's just."
You said to them,
I said to them, yeah.
But will you miss having them there? Will it feel different? They were your top advisors.
I'll tell you what, I'll miss them, and they're really competent. But I say, just go have fun, do your business, do whatever you want to do, but don't come in, because no matter what they did such a great job. Although I have to say, Lara did a phenomenal job as the head of the Republican National Committee, along with Michael.
What will the First Lady's role be, do you think? Will she continue her Be Best campaign?
She's a very elegant First Lady. She was a very successful woman before that, in the modeling and other things, but in the modeling, very successful. The press, I can't say treated her unfairly. You know why? Because she's very popular. You would think if the press was unfair, like to me, the press was obviously unfair to me. The press, no president has ever gotten treated by the press like I was, and yet I got more votes than any Republican candidate in history by far. It's not even close. So you say, what's that all about? The press has to straighten itself out, because honestly, it's lost all credibility. When that can happen, based on the press, I should have gotten no votes, none, and yet I got the highest number ever. And the reason is because I'm able to go on a show, even like yours, even though you're very hostile, I'm able to go on a show like yours. No, you are.
Well, hopefully you thought it was a fair interview. We covered a lot of policy ground.
It's fair only in that you allowed me to say what I say, but the answers, the questions are pretty nasty. But look, because I've seen you interview.
This was the most softball interview that anyone could ever possibly have. The problem is that he doesn't have any policy, so being asked hyper simple policy questions is a hard interview for Donald Trump. But this is a hyper softball interview, and it should have been a billion times harder. But I can understand why she didn't, because nominating Kash Patel to the FBI and nominating that Pam lady to Attorney General, I can understand why you wouldn't want to go super hard on Donald Trump anymore. But in a perfect world, this interview would have been 200 times harder, and it wouldn't have gone past a single thing without a very hard, concrete answer. We wouldn't have even gotten past the first question about deporting legal citizens in an ideal world. This is the softest softball. This is like a fucking MyPillow ass interview. But these are nasty questions to Donald Trump.
Other people like Biden. And
I've never interviewed President Biden.
When I say you, I'm talking metaphorically.
Okay.
I've seen George Stephanopoulos interview Biden, and he's a tough interviewer. It's the softest interview. I've seen CNN interview. They give these soft, what's your favorite ice cream? It's a whole different deal. I don't understand why. You would think the press would like to see strong borders, great education, a powerful military, so we have a country left, and all these different things, and somehow they don't want to see that.
Let me ask you, hopefully you think this interview was fair. We spent a lot of time talking about your policy and your second administration. I want to ask you, sir, one final question. What do you want to say to Americans who didn't support you in this campaign?
I'm going to treat you every bit as well as I have treated the greatest MAGA supporters. There's never been anything like MAGA in the history of this country. These people are so dedicated to making America great again. It's very simple. And I'm going to treat them just the same as I treat MAGA. We're going to treat everybody good. We want success for our country. We want safety for our country. Our
That's a
country's
decent
under
answer.
threat, as you know. We have a tremendous threat militarily because of the power of weapons and weaponry. It's a tremendous threat. Nobody talks about it, but it's a tremendous threat. I want to treat everybody the same. I want to treat them well. And at the end of this 4 years, and I have a big head start because I was there for 4 years fairly recently. A lot of bad things were done during the 4 years that I wasn't there, and mostly in what they've done in terms of our reputation overseas. Our reputation is so bad, so shot. I got to bring it back, and I have to bring back civilization to our country. Our country is a crime pot, and we have to get rid of crime. We have so many things to do. We have to do the prices, we have to do all of that, but we have to get the criminals out of our country. We have to bring down crime. People have to be able to walk across the street and buy a loaf of bread without being shot, and that's going to happen. But what I say to them is, I love you, and we're going to all work together, and we're going to bring it together. And you know what's going to bring it together? Success. I saw that just prior to COVID coming in. I had polls that were the highest. Anyone, McLaughlin and Fabrizio said, George Washington and Abraham Lincoln, if they came back from the dead and they ran as president and vice president, couldn't beat you, sir. We were doing so well, and I was getting along with the left. Let's call it the left. We'll be nice. Okay, we're just going to go. But I was getting along with people that you would consider liberal or progressive, as they like to say, at levels that I never thought was possible. And you know what it was? Success. Success was bringing the country together, and that's what I want to do.
We'll leave it there unless you'd like to say anything more.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the honor.
Trash interview. Don't even shake hands. I'm not even going to give... I'm going to pause it before they shake hands. I'm not even going to give the satisfaction. Oh, that was terrible. Terrible. I think the worst part was him trying to say that he's going to change the 14th Amendment through executive action. That was really awesome and within the scope of presidential power. And that's not broadening the scope of presidential power. And we need to stop pretending like Donald Trump somehow holds contempt for the Constitution, even though he wants to say that he wants to unilaterally change the Constitution through executive action.